You picked the wrong girl to mess with tonight. Elena Vasquez speaks these words in a voice that doesn't match her small frame or gentle demeanor. And in 60 seconds, 5 bikers are going to understand exactly what she means. But first, let's go back 3 hours to when this all started at Murphy's Roadhouse, where nobody knew who was really serving their drinks. The Harley-Davidson engines rumbled to life outside Murphy's Roadhouse at exactly 7:30 p.m. on a Thursday night, their deep growl cutting through the autumn air like a warning. Inside, Elena Vasquez freezes mid-motion while polishing a whiskey glass, her grip tightening imperceptibly around the crystal surface. The sound triggers something primal in her nervous system, a hypervigilance she spent 2 years trying to suppress. Murphy's Roadhouse sits on the edge of Millfield like a beacon for every drifter, local and troublemaker within 50 miles. Neon beer signs cast red and blue shadows across worn wooden floors that have seen more fights than a boxing gym. The jukebox in the corner plays classic rock at just the right volume to drown out conversations you're not supposed to hear. While mounted deer heads stare down at patrons with glassy indifference, Elena adjusts the black bandana around her neck with practiced casualness, ensuring every inch of skin from her collar to her jawline remains covered. At 5'4" in, she moves behind the bar with the quiet efficiency of someone who prefers to remain unnoticed. Her dark hair falls in gentle waves past her shoulders, framing features that could belong to any small-town girl working her way through college or paying off student loans. Murphy himself, a weathered man in his 60s with hands like leather and eyes that have seen too much, emerges from the back office where he's been counting the day's receipts. "The wolves are back," he mutters, recognition heavy in his voice. "Elena, you're about to meet our most loyal customers." She continues polishing the glass with steady hands, though her posture has shifted almost imperceptibly. Her weight now rests on the balls of her feet, and her free hand hovers near the bottle opener on her belt, with the unconscious positioning of someone who has learned to treat every object as a potential tool. "Regulars. More than that," Murphy says, his voice carrying the weariness of a man who has made too many compromises to survive. "Viper Kane and his crew have been coming here for 2 years. They spend good money, bring in other customers, and generally keep the riffraff away." He pauses, studying her face for any sign of fear or judgment. "But they can be demanding. Just serve them whatever they want. Smile and don't take anything personally." The sound of boots on gravel grows louder as 5 men dismount their machines with the deliberate slowness of predators who know they own their territory. Elena's reflection in the mirror behind the bar shows a young woman who appears completely calm. But the micro-expressions around her eyes tell a different story to anyone trained to read them. Through the front window, she watches them approach with the swagger of men who have never encountered real resistance. Viper Kane leads the pack, his leather vest decorated with patches that tell the story of a life lived on the wrong side of every line. Razor walks to his left, snake tattoos coiling up both arms like promises of violence. Bull and Snake flank them while Torch brings up the rear. His nickname earned from an unfortunate incident involving a rival gang and an abandoned warehouse. The door swings open with enough force to rattle the beer signs on the wall. And suddenly the temperature in Murphy's Roadhouse drops several degrees. Not from any change in weather, but from the shift in power dynamics that occurs when apex predators enter what they consider their domain. What you're witnessing right now is something that happens in small towns across America every single day. If you want to see how this David and Goliath situation plays out, trust me, it's not what anyone expects. Hit that like button and subscribe, because Elena's story is just getting started. Viper Kane removes his sunglasses with theatrical precision, revealing eyes that catalog every detail of the bar as if taking inventory of his possessions. He's 6 feet of muscle and bad decisions with graying hair pulled back in a ponytail and scars that speak of fights won through brutality rather than skill. Well, he draws, his voice carrying the authority of someone who has never been successfully challenged. "What do we have here?" Elena sets down the glass she's been polishing and faces them with professional courtesy. "Good evening, gentlemen. What can I get you?" The question hangs in the air for a moment while Kane's crew arranges itself in a semicircle around the bar. They move with the practiced coordination of a pack that has hunted together for years. Each man taking position to maximize intimidation while ensuring no escape routes remain open for their target. "New meat behind the bar, boys," Kane announces to his companions, though his eyes never leave Elena's face. "Murphy, you didn't tell us you were hiring pretty little things to brighten up this dump." Murphy forces a laugh that sounds like gravel in a blender. "Elena's just started this week. She's learning the ropes, getting familiar with how we do things around here." The emphasis on the last phrase carries enough subtext to fill a library. A warning wrapped in casual conversation. Razor leans against the bar with studied casualness, his snake tattoo seeming to writhe in the neon light. Hope she's a fast learner. Some lessons around here can be painful if you don't catch on quick. Elena's smile remains perfectly professional, though anyone watching closely might notice how her left hand has moved closer to a bottle of bourbon that could serve as either drink or weapon depending on circumstances. I'm always eager to learn from experienced customers. What's your usual order? The question demonstrates either remarkable naivety or calculated strategy, treating these men as ordinary patrons rather than the wolves Murphy warned her about. Bull 300 LB of barely controlled aggression finds this amusing enough to slap the bar with a hand the size of a dinner plate. 5 whissies neat, Kane orders, settling onto a bar stool that groans under his weight. Top shelf stuff. None of that watered-down garbage you serve the college kids. He pauses, studying Elena's movements as she reaches for the premium bottles. And take your time. We're not in any hurry tonight. The implication in his voice transforms a simple drink order into something far more sinister. Snake and Torch exchange knowing glances while positioning themselves to block the front entrance. Their movements casual but deliberate. The few other patrons in Murphy's Roadhouse suddenly find their drinks extraordinarily interesting. Unwilling to make eye contact with either the bikers or the young woman serving them, Elena pours 5 measures of 18-year-old Macallan with the precision of a chemist each glass. Receiving exactly 2 awes of amber liquid, her movements remain steady, despite the weight of 5 pairs of eyes tracking her every motion. Here you go, she says, sliding the glasses across the bar with practiced efficiency. That'll be $75. Kane makes no move toward his wallet. Instead, he picks up his glass and takes a slow sip, his eyes never leaving Elena's face. You know what I like about new girls? He asks his crew. Though the question is clearly intended for her, they haven't learned to be afraid yet. Makes the education process so much more interesting. The other patrons begin finding excuses to leave, recognizing the shift in atmosphere that precedes trouble. Murphy disappears into his back office with the cowardice of a man who has survived by knowing when to make himself scarce. Within minutes, the bar empties except for Elena and the 5 bikers who have turned what should be a simple transaction into something resembling a siege. Elena continues wiping down the bar surface, her movements methodical and unhurried. The drinks are 75, she repeats, her voice carrying no trace of intimidation or fear. This lack of proper reaction seems to frustrate Kane, who expected trembling hands and stammered apologies. Maybe she didn't hear you properly, Razor suggests, his voice carrying mock concern. Some people need things explained real slow and clear. He reaches across the bar to tap the surface near Elena's hand, his finger stopping just short of actual contact. Pay attention, sweetheart. This is how things work in our bar. The possessive pronoun hangs heavy in the air, establishing territorial claims that go far beyond simple customer loyalty. Elena's hand stops moving for just a moment, her knuckles whitening as she grips the bar towel with enough force to tear it. But when she looks up, her expression remains perfectly neutral. I understand you're regular customers, she says, her voice steady. But the drink still costs $75. Bull laughs, a sound like rocks tumbling down a mountainside. She's got spine. I'll give her that. Stupid, but spine. He gestures toward his companions. You see these faces, little girl? We've been coming here since before you were old enough to serve drinks. Murphy knows the arrangement. Elena's eyes flick toward the back office where Murphy has taken refuge, then return to the men surrounding her workspace. I'm just here to serve drinks and collect payment. Nothing complicated about that. Kane sets his glass down with enough force to make the other glasses jump. Everything's complicated when you don't know the rules. Lucky for you, we're feeling educational tonight. He stands up from his bar stool, his presence suddenly filling more space than his physical form should occupy. Lesson 1, respect. You show it, you get it, you don't. He lets the sentence trail off while walking around the bar toward the section where employees pass through. Elena watches him approach with the stillness of a deer that has spotted movement in the underbrush, but hasn't yet decided whether to run or freeze. I am showing respect by serving quality drinks and clean glasses, Elena replies, though her hand has now moved to rest on the bar rail where several bottles wait within easy reach. What exactly are you looking for? Kane stops just inside the bar area, close enough that Elena can smell leather and motor oil and something darker underneath. Recognition, he says simply, understanding of how things work around here. Murphy runs this place, but we protect it. That makes us partners, and partners look out for each other. The euphemism doesn't disguise what amounts to a protection racket. The kind of arrangement that keeps small businesses alive by bleeding them slowly rather than destroying them quickly. Elena nods as if considering this information, though her posture has shifted into something that might look casual to the untrained eye, but positions her optimally for rapid movement in any direction. That's between you and Murphy, she says carefully. I just serve drinks. Snake moves closer to the bar, his reptilian tattoos seeming to coil with each step. See, that's where you're wrong, new girl. Everything that happens in this bar affects all of us. Murphy's problems become our problems, and our happiness becomes Murphy's priority. He grins, revealing teeth that have seen better decades. Right now, we're not very happy. Elena's reflection in the mirror shows a young woman surrounded by predators, each one larger and more experienced in violence than she appears to be. But something in her eyes has changed. A subtle shift that transforms her from prey into something else entirely. What would make you happy? The question seems innocent enough, but it carries undertones that make Kane pause in his advance. There's no fear in her voice, no pleading or desperation, just a simple request for clarification that suggests she's prepared to negotiate rather than surrender. Better service, Kane says after a moment. More attention to detail, maybe some conversation to go with the drinks? He reaches out slowly, deliberately to touch the edge of Elena's bandana and less hiding behind scarves and shy looks. We like to see who we're talking to. Elena's hand moves faster than thought, intercepting his wrist before his fingers can make contact with the fabric around her neck. Her grip is precise and controlled, stopping his motion without causing damage, but demonstrating capabilities that don't match her apparent size or strength. I prefer to keep my neck covered, she says quietly, releasing his wrist after holding it just long enough to make her point. Professional appearance and all. Kane stares at his wrist where her fingers left no marks but somehow conveyed the impression of steel cables disguised as human bones. For the first time since entering Murphy's Roadhouse, uncertainty flickers across his features. Professional, huh? What kind of professional work requires that kind of grip strength? Elena returns to wiping down the bar as if the interaction never happened. Bartending can be physically demanding, lifting cases, moving kegs, dealing with difficult situations. Each word carries perfect innocence while simultaneously serving as a warning to anyone smart enough to decode it. Razor and Bull exchange glances that speak of shared confusion. The evening isn't progressing according to their usual script. Where intimidation leads to submission, leads to whatever entertainment they feel entitled to extract from their victims. Instead, they're facing a bartender who seems genuinely unimpressed by their reputation and capabilities. Maybe we need to be more direct, Torch suggests, speaking for the first time since entering the bar. His voice carries the rasp of a man who has inhaled too much smoke from too many fires. Some people don't respond to subtle hints. Kane nods slowly, his initial confusion hardening into something more dangerous. You're right. Elena here seems to need a more hands-on education about how we operate. He moves closer, invading her personal space with the deliberate aggression of a man who has never encountered meaningful resistance. Elena's movements remain calm and controlled, but her positioning has become unmistakably tactical. Her back stays to the wall. Her sightlines remain clear, and her hands rest near objects that could serve multiple purposes. I'm listening if you want to explain your concerns like adults. The word adults hits Kane like a slap across the face, implying that his current behavior falls short of mature standards. His jaw tightens as he realizes this small woman is somehow managing to make him feel foolish in front of his own crew. Adults don't hide behind bar counters when they're having a conversation. He growls, gesturing for her to come around to their side. Adults face each other when they talk. Elena considers this request with the careful attention of someone evaluating a tactical situation. The bar counter provides both barrier and protection, but also limits her mobility and escape options. More importantly, complying with Kane's demand would demonstrate submission that could escalate their expectations beyond anything she's prepared to tolerate. I'm comfortable here, she says simply. And I can hear you just fine. Bull slams his fist on the bar hard enough to rattle every glass in the establishment. She's disrespecting you, Viper, right to your face in front of all of us. The accusation transforms what might have remained verbal sparring into something more serious. In the ecosystem of masculine hierarchy that governs biker culture, public disrespect cannot go unanswered without undermining the leadership structure that keeps groups like Iron Wolves functional. Kane's expression shifts into something darker and more focused. You know what, Bull? You're absolutely right. He looks directly at Elena with the intensity of a predator that has decided to stop playing with its food. Last chance, sweetheart. Come out from behind that counter and show some proper respect, or we're going to come get you. Elena sets down her bar towel with deliberate precision, her movements conveying the calm certainty of someone who has already made their decision. When she looks up, something fundamental has changed in her demeanor. The professional courtesy remains, but underneath it lies steel that wasn't there moments before. No, she says simply. The word hangs in the air like a declaration of war. Kane's face cycles through surprise, anger, and something approaching genuine rage as he processes what amounts to the first direct defiance he's encountered in Murphy's Roadhouse in 2 years. Snake moves to flank Elena from the right side of the bar, while Torch positions himself to block the back entrance. Bull remains near the front door, effectively sealing off escape routes with the practiced efficiency of men who have cornered prey many times before. Wrong answer, Kane says, his voice dropping to a register that promises violence. Boys, I think our new bartender needs a lesson in customer service. What? Now, I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. You're watching Elena face down 5 dangerous men who have her completely surrounded and outnumbered. Based on what you've seen so far, do you think she's making a terrible mistake by refusing to back down, or do you think she knows something they don't? Drop your prediction in the comments, because what happens next is going to shock everyone in Murphy's Roadhouse, including Kane himself. The bikers begin closing in with the methodical precision of a military operation, each man moving to eliminate Elena's options while maintaining their own safety. Kane vaults over the bar counter with surprising agility for his size, landing in the narrow workspace where Elena has spent her evening serving drinks to people who now want to hurt her. Elena backs against the mirror-lined wall where bottles of premium liquor create a glittering backdrop for what's about to unfold. Her hands move to her sides, not in surrender, but in the ready position of someone prepared to defend themselves with whatever tools become available. Last chance to do this the easy way, Kane offers, though his tone suggests the easy way was never really an option. All you have to do is apologize for your attitude and show us some proper hospitality. Maybe take off that bandana and let us see what you're hiding underneath. His hand reaches toward her neck with the casual entitlement of a man who has never been denied what he wants to take. Elena's muscles coil like springs under tension, every fiber of her being focused on the approaching threat. The bandana around her neck seems to tighten as if it too understands that its time as camouflage is coming to an end. Don't, she warns, her voice carrying undertones that would stop a wiser man in his tracks. Kane's fingers brush against the fabric and Elena's world explodes into action. Her reaction is faster than thought, deadlier than anyone in Murphy's Roadhouse could have imagined. Elena's elbow drives upward into Kane's solar plexus with surgical precision. The strike calculated to disable rather than destroy. The impact doubles him over, his breath exploding from his lungs in a surprised whoosh that echoes off the mirror-lined walls, but Kane's falling body tears at her bandana as he collapses, the fabric ripping away to reveal what Elena has spent 2 years keeping hidden. Inked across the left side of her neck in bold black letters that catch the neon light like a declaration of war. Ghost Recon 75th Ranger. Below the text, an eagle spreads its wings with talons that seem to grip her collarbone, while numbers and symbols tell the story of missions that officially never happened. The tattoo freezes everyone in Murphy's Roadhouse like a photograph, capturing the moment everything changed. Razor's hand stops halfway to the knife on his belt. Bull's advance toward the bar counter comes to an abrupt halt. Snake and Torch exchange glances that speak of sudden uncertainty about their chosen target. Elena straightens to her full height, and somehow she seems taller now, more substantial, as if revealing the ink has restored something essential that was compressed and hidden. Her posture shifts from defensive bartender to something else entirely, something that makes grown men reconsider their life choices. Gentlemen, she says, her voice carrying new authority that fills the space between them like a warning. You have approximately 30 seconds to walk out that door and pretend this conversation never happened. Kane struggles to his feet, one hand pressed against his ribs where Elena's elbow found its mark. His face cycles through pain, confusion, and mounting rage as he processes what he's seeing. You think some fake military tattoo is going to scare us? I don't care what kind of weekend warrior games you played. Elena's smile contains no warmth whatsoever. Weekend warrior. She reaches behind the bar and produces a bottle of Jack Daniels, not to serve, but to demonstrate grip strength that turns the glass neck into a weapon. Kandahar Province 2019, Operation Steel Rain. 48 hours behind enemy lines with no backup, no extraction plan, and no guarantee anyone would ever know what happened to us. The specificity of details hits Kane like cold water. But pride and momentum carry him forward past the point where wisdom might have prevailed. Look at you. You're just some college girl with a fake tattoo trying to act tough. Elena's response comes in the form of movement rather than words. She vaults over the bar counter with fluid grace that speaks of training far beyond anything civilian life requires. Her feet hit the floor on the other side without sound. And suddenly she's in their space close enough to demonstrate just how wrong Kane's assessment truly is. "Razor," she says without looking at the man whose hand still hovers near his knife. "That blade has a foreign steel construction with a leather grip worn smooth from overuse. You favor a reverse grip because you learned to fight in prison rather than through proper training. Against someone with actual combat experience, you'll telegraph your attack 3 seconds before you commit to it." Razor's hand jerks away from his weapon as if the handle had become white hot. Elena's casual enumeration of details she shouldn't know creates doubt that spreads through the group like poison gas. She continues her assessment with clinical precision. "Bull, you're carrying 30 lbs of excess weight around your midsection, which means your cardio peaked about 10 years ago. In a real fight, you've got maybe 90 seconds before your breathing becomes a liability. Snake, those track marks on your inner forearm tell me you're dealing with substances that affect reaction time and decision M. Not ideal when facing someone who's stone cold sober." Each observation strips away another layer of the intimidation these men have built their reputations on. Elena isn't guessing or bluffing. She's conducting a tactical assessment with the thoroughness of someone trained to identify and exploit weaknesses in hostile forces. Kane tries to reassert control through volume and aggression. "Enough talk. I don't care what you think you know. You're still one small woman against 5 men who've been in more fights than you've had birthdays." Elena nods as if considering this mathematical disadvantage. "You're right about the numbers. 5 against 1 isn't fair." She pauses, and when she continues, ice runs through her voice for you. The transformation is complete now. The nervous bartender who served whiskey with professional courtesy has been replaced by someone who moves with the controlled precision of a weapon designed by the military-industrial complex. Elena doesn't adopt a fighting stance because she doesn't need one. Her entire body has become a weapon system waiting for target acquisition. Bull makes the first mistake, rushing forward with the overconfidence of someone who has always relied on size over skill. Elena sidesteps his charge with minimal effort, using his momentum against him by guiding his face-first collision with the bar counter. The impact produces a wet crunch that suggests his nose will never quite look the same. Snake attempts to capitalize on her apparent focus on Bull by attacking from the side, but Elena's peripheral vision tracks multiple threats simultaneously. Her backhand catches him across the throat with enough force to send him staggering backward, clutching his windpipe and making sounds like a broken accordion. Torch finally draws the knife Razor couldn't bring himself to use, the blade catching neon light as he waves it with the unpracticed enthusiasm of someone who has watched too many movies. Elena regards the weapon with professional interest rather than fear. "Knife work requires commitment," she observes conversationally while dodging his clumsy swipes. "You have to be willing to get close to risk taking damage while inflicting it. Most people think the blade makes them dangerous, but it actually makes them predictable." She demonstrates this principle by catching his wrist during an overextended thrust, applying pressure to nerves that turn his fingers numb and force him to drop the weapon. The knife clatters across the floor, spinning to rest near Kane's feet, like an offering he lacks the courage to accept. Kane himself remains frozen by the casual efficiency with which Elena has neutralized 4 members of his crew. The violence unfolds with such surgical precision that it barely seems like fighting at all. More like a demonstration of principles he's never encountered before. "This is impossible," he breathes, looking at his companions, who are now variously holding injured body parts and questioning their life choices. "You can't be this good. Women don't fight like this." Elena's expression suggests she's heard similar statements before, usually right before proving them catastrophically wrong. "Women don't fight like what exactly?" "Like we received the same combat training as men. Like we deployed to the same war zones. Like we carried the same weapons and faced the same enemies." She moves closer to Kane with each question, her approach casual but relentless. "Or did you mean women don't fight like we actually want to win?" Kane backs against the bar counter, his earlier confidence replaced by the dawning realization that he has fundamentally misunderstood the nature of his opponent. "Stay back, I'm warning you." Elena stops just outside striking distance, close enough to demonstrate that she could close the gap before he could react, but far enough to avoid appearing as the aggressor. You've been warned several times tonight about payment for drinks, about keeping your hands to yourself, about walking away while you still could. She tilts her head slightly. How has ignoring good advice worked out for your crew? The question hangs in the air while Kane surveys the wreckage of what was supposed to be a simple intimidation session. Bull sits on the floor holding a bar towel to his bleeding nose. Snake leans against the wall, massaging his throat and breathing like he's climbed a mountain. Torch cradles his numb hand while staring at Elena with newfound respect that borders on terror. Razor hasn't moved from his position near the entrance, apparently hoping that remaining perfectly still might help him avoid notice. Kane's hand moves toward the pistol concealed beneath his leather vest, but Elena's voice stops him before his fingers make contact. I wouldn't recommend escalating to firearms. Once bullets start flying, this stops being about who's tougher and starts being about who has better training with weapon systems. Given that I spent 3 years learning to kill people professionally while you've spent 3 years intimidating bartenders, how do you think that math works out? The casual way she discusses lethal violence as if it's just another professional skill like accounting or plumbing finally penetrates Kane's thick skull. He's not facing a bartender who got lucky with a few martial arts classes. He's confronting someone who was trained by the United States military to eliminate threats efficiently and without remorse. Kane's hand drops to his side as the weight of his situation finally registers. What do you want? Elena considers the question with the thoroughness of someone accustomed to thinking several moves ahead. Payment for 5 whizzies, $75, an apology to Murphy for disrupting his establishment. And your promise that Iron Wolves will find somewhere else to spend their money from now on. The terms seem almost reasonable until Kane processes the implications. Being banned from Murphy's Roadhouse means losing a place where his crew has established dominance, where they're known and feared. More importantly, it means publicly acknowledging defeat at the hands of someone they thought they could intimidate. We can't just leave, Kane protests. People will hear about this. They'll think we're weak. Elena's expression suggests she understands his dilemma and finds it completely irrelevant to her concerns. People will think you're smart enough to recognize when you're outmatched and mature enough to admit mistakes. Alternatively, they'll think you're the kind of people who pick fights with bartenders and lose. Your choice. The sound of gravel crunching under tires outside Murphy's Roadhouse interrupts their negotiation. Blue and red lights strobe through the windows, painting everyone in alternating colors of authority as Sheriff Martinez pulls into the parking lot, with the timing of someone who's been monitoring radio chatter about disturbances at local establishments. Kane's face pales as he realizes the situation has moved beyond simple bar politics into potential legal territory. Somebody must have called the cops. Elena shrugs as if the arrival of law enforcement is just another variable in an equation she's been calculating all evening. Murphy's got a silent alarm behind the register. Probably triggered it when things started getting loud. Sheriff Martinez enters Murphy's Roadhouse with the measured caution of someone who has responded to enough domestic disturbances to know that calm surfaces often hide dangerous currents. He surveys the scene with professional eyes that catalog the injured bikers, the broken glass, and the small woman who somehow stands in the center of it all, looking completely unruffled. Evening, folks. Got a call about a disturbance. His gaze settles on Elena, taking in details that make his eyebrows rise slightly. Ma'am, you mind telling me what happened here? Elena straightens her torn shirt and smooths her hair with the automatic grooming gestures of someone presenting themselves to authority. These gentlemen became upset about their bar tab and things escalated when they tried to intimidate me into providing free drinks and additional services. The euphemistic language transforms what could be a complicated legal situation into something much simpler. Elena isn't claiming to be a victim, just someone who defended herself against unreasonable demands from difficult customers. Martinez nods as if this explanation makes perfect sense, but his eyes keep returning to Elena's neck, where the revealed tattoo tells a different story entirely. That's some interesting ink you've got there, miss. Mind me asking what unit? Elena's posture shifts almost imperceptibly. Muscle memory responding to a question that could only come from someone with military experience. 75th Ranger, sir, 3rd Battalion Ghost Recon Division. Martinez's entire demeanor changes as recognition clicks into place. Sergeant Elena Vasquez, I'll be damned. He extends his hand with the respect one warrior offers another. Sheriff Martinez, formerly Captain Martinez, 82nd Airborne. I heard rumors you were somewhere in this area, but figured they were just stories. The handshake between Elena and Martinez carries weight that transcends civilian law enforcement. They're veterans acknowledging shared experience, shared understanding of things that can't be explained to people who weren't there. Kane watches this interaction with growing comprehension that his situation has moved from bad to potentially catastrophic. Wait, you two know each other? Martinez doesn't take his eyes off Elena. Not personally, but I know the reputation. Sergeant Vasquez here is officially listed as killed in action after a classified operation went sideways in Afghanistan. The fact that she's serving drinks in Murphy's Roadhouse suggests someone went to considerable trouble to give her a new identity and a quiet place to disappear. Elena's jaw tightens slightly. Was a quiet place. Not anymore. Martinez nods, understanding. Cover's blown now. Can't put that genie back in the bottle. He turns to Kane and his crew with the authority of someone who has dealt with troublemakers for 3 decades. You boys want to tell me your side of this story? Kane looks at his injured companions, at Elena, who has revealed capabilities none of them imagined, at a sheriff who clearly respects their opponent more than he fears their reputation. The mathematics of his situation couldn't be clearer if they were written on a blackboard. Misunderstanding, he mutters. We'll pay for the drinks and be on our way. Martinez's expression suggests he finds this explanation about as convincing as a $3 bill, but also recognizes that sometimes the best resolution involves allowing people to save face while accepting consequences. Misunderstanding, right? Well, misunderstandings can be expensive, especially when they involve property damage and disturbing the peace. He walks around Murphy's Roadhouse cataloging overturned chairs, broken glasses, and the general disruption that accompanies violence in confined spaces. I count about $200 in damages, plus the drinks, plus some additional compensation for the lady's trouble and torn clothing. Call it $400 total. Kane's face cycles through indignation and calculation before settling on grudging acceptance. $400 is cheaper than bail money, lawyer fees, and the reputation damage that would come from being arrested by a sheriff who clearly knows more about their opponent than they do. Fine, he agrees, producing a roll of cash from his vest pocket. $400. Elena watches the money change hands with professional detachment, as if the entire confrontation was just another problem to be solved through proper application of force and negotiation. But Martinez notices details that escape civilian observation, like the way she positions herself to maintain sightlines and escape routes even while the immediate threat has been neutralized. Miss, you mind if we have a word in private? Martinez asks, gesturing toward a corner table away from the bikers who are collecting their dignity along with their wounded. Elena nods and follows him to a booth where they can speak without being overheard. Martinez settles his bulk across from her and studies her face with the intensity of someone trying to reconcile legend with reality. Elena Vasquez died in a helicopter crash during Operation Mountain Sweep September 2022, he says quietly. At least that's what the official records say. Her entire unit was listed as KIA when their transport went down behind enemy lines. Elena's expression doesn't change, but something flickers behind her eyes like candlelight in a drafty room. Sometimes the official records tell the story that needs to be told, rather than the one that actually happened. Martinez nods slowly. And sometimes good soldiers get burned by politics and bureaucracy and end up needing to disappear for their own safety. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. The question is, what happens now that your disappearing act has been compromised? Elena glances toward the bikers who are helping their injured to their feet and making preparations to leave. I imagine word will spread pretty quickly about what happened here tonight. Elena Vasquez might need to disappear again, and someone else entirely might need to find a new place to start over. Or, Martinez says thoughtfully, Elena Vasquez might decide she's tired of running and hiding. Small towns can always use people with her particular skill set, especially in law enforcement positions where military experience is valued. The suggestion hangs between them like a bridge across dangerous water. Elena studies Martinez's face for any sign of hidden agenda or ulterior motive, but finds only the straightforward offer of one veteran to another. Sheriff's departments don't usually hire people who are officially dead, she points out. Martinez grins, the expression transforming his weathered features. Amazing how much paperwork can get misfiled or misunderstood when there's a genuine need. Amazing how flexible bureaucracy becomes when it serves the greater good. Elena considers this possibility while watching Kane and his crew limp toward the exit. Iron Wolves no longer looks like a pack of apex predators. They look like men who have learned the difference between intimidating civilians and facing someone with actual training and experience. I'll think about it, she tells Martinez, which they both understand means she's seriously considering stepping out of the shadows and reclaiming her identity. Murphy emerges from his back office now that the immediate danger has passed, surveying the damage to his establishment, with the resignation of someone who has cleaned up after too many fights to count. His eyes find Elena behind the bar, where she has returned to wiping down surfaces as if nothing happened. Well, he says simply, I guess I need to find a new bartender. Elena looks up from the glass she's polishing. I'm sorry it worked out this way, Murphy. I tried to handle it quietly. Murphy waves away her apology. Nothing quiet about men like Kane. They keep pushing until someone pushes back harder. He pauses, studying her with new understanding. Can't say I'm surprised it was you. Always knew there was something different about you. Just never imagined what... Elena sets down her towel and removes the apron that marks her as Murphy's employee. The gesture feels final, like closing a chapter that can never be reopened. I'll clean out my locker and be gone by morning. Where will you go? Murphy asks, genuine concern in his voice. Elena glances toward Martinez, who is still sitting in the corner booth, patient as a stone statue. Maybe nowhere. Maybe it's time to stop running and start dealing with problems head-on. Murphy nods as if this makes perfect sense. For what it's worth, you're the best bartender I've ever hired. Also the most dangerous, apparently, but definitely the best. Elena manages a small smile at this assessment. Thanks, Murphy. It's been educational. The bikers finish their painful exodus from Murphy's Roadhouse. Kane pausing at the door for one final look at the woman who dismantled his crew's reputation in less than 10 minutes. His expression suggests he still can't quite believe what happened, but he's smart enough not to test the lesson a second time. This isn't over, he calls out, though the words lack conviction. Elena's response carries the flat certainty of someone stating mathematical facts. Yes, it is. And if you're smart, you'll make sure it stays that way. Kane's jaw works like he wants to say something else. But wisdom finally overcomes pride. He exits Murphy's Roadhouse for what everyone present understands will be the last time, taking with him the illusion that intimidation and reputation can overcome training and experience. Martinez approaches the bar where Elena is collecting her personal belongings from behind the counter. Offer stands. Sheriff's Department could use someone with your background. Pay's not great, but the work has meaning. Elena considers this while folding her apron and placing it on the clean bar surface. And if I decide I prefer civilian life, if I want to find another quiet job in another quiet town, Martinez shrugs. Then I never saw you tonight. And Elena Vasquez remains officially dead. But I suspect you're tired of being dead. Hard to help people when you're hiding who you really are. Elena opens her locker and removes a small duffel bag containing her possessions. As she zips it closed, a folded paper falls out. The note reads, "Welcome home, Ghost. Some of us never stopped looking. Time to come back to the world of the living. A friend from the old unit." Elena's face pales as she realizes her cover has been compromised from multiple directions. Someone from her military past has tracked her down and accessed her personal belongings. Martinez notices her reaction. Problem? Elena pockets the note. Maybe. Or maybe it's the opposite of a problem. She looks around Murphy's Roadhouse one final time, memorizing the place where she tried to build a quiet life. Sheriff Martinez, she says, extending her hand. I accept your offer. When do I start? Martinez grins. Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. Elena shoulders her bag and walks toward the exit with confident strides. No longer trying to remain invisible, her fingers touch the revealed tattoo, telling stories of missions she can't discuss. The transformation is complete. Elena Vasquez has become small-town deputy sheriff. But the note suggests some ghosts from her past aren't content to let sleeping dogs lie. And Monday morning might bring challenges that make tonight's confrontation look like warm-up practice.